Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Interstellar Business Show. My name is Andrew Bull. I'll be your host on this journey of growing, working, and living smarter. In today's episode, I'm joined by Tanya Fox from Fox Talks Business. We're going to be talking about what it takes to exit a business and what are the decisions or things you need to be thinking about when it comes to exiting a business. Now, you might think, I'm not thinking about exiting my business right now. How's this relevant to me? Well, whether you like it or not, at some point you will be exiting your business. So the insights and information that Tanya is going to share in today's episode could be really valuable for you, whether that's in the next year or the next couple of years. So it's definitely worth a listen. I'll be talking with Tanya right after this message. This message that is coming up is about a personalized business report that I have created that you can get for free. I'll see you on the other side of the message.
Are you a free-thinking business leader? We have a report you must see. It's a personalized report that reveals your strengths and weaknesses. Head to interstellar.report and get your free report today. Test yourself at interstellar.report.
I'm really pleased to have on the show today Tanya Fox from Fox Talks Business. Thank you for joining us today, Tanya. Tanya's going to be talking about sticking, twisting, or folding when it comes to business ownership. Is that a crazy way to introduce your specialist area?
No, I love that. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm really excited, Andrew.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to have you here. So that, one of the things that you specialize is when someone comes to a point in their lifestyle, their lifetime of being a business owner, when they go, actually, this isn't quite working for me anymore. How I want it for how it's work. Owning a business as it is isn't working right now. I need to mix things up, and maybe, just maybe, and this is like a crazy thought for a lot of business owners, because our businesses are our babies, right? We've had to work so hard to sustain them and grow them and look after them, and I think if you're talking about loss aversion, I think letting go of your business is going to be a hard psychological thing for many business owners, whether their business is a success or not, right? Is that where you get involved?
Yeah. And, this really came to be because I was struggling for this myself. I had 4 businesses running. I've been an entrepreneur for over 23 years, and I just kind of kept accumulating different ones. You start one business and it goes really smoothly, and I got to the point where I was where I wanted to be. The business was running and could run without me. So there was a little bit of an ego hit that I had to deal with that, because of course we all want to feel like, if I wasn't in my business, it would crumble to the ground, right? We just want to have that sort of train of thought. And so I got a little bored and I started more businesses, and then I started another one, and I kind of got into retail and franchise, and I kind of was really branching out. But I got to a point where something had to give. I didn't have enough time to really be all that I needed to be in all of these businesses. And so something needed to give. And I found myself sort of realizing that this was a real problem because it wasn't a clear-cut decision. So if you're in a business and the business is failing and it's taking all of your money and it's not even sustaining itself, it's easy to go, it's time to let this go. It's not working, it's failing, we need to get out. It becomes a really clear decision. But when a business is, even just paying for itself, or even worse, making a profit, it's really hard to say, I don't want to do this anymore. And I think there's a lot of people that sort of come up. It's usually around the 5-year mark. Between 5 and 7 years, I find that sort of when people kind of get a little bit of that itch where they're like, something's, not right. And sometimes it is like you had said in the introduction, that sometimes it's just that feeling of, do I really want to stick with this business? Am I still passionate about it? Well, like, what's going on? What's making me feel like, ugh, I got to get up, I got to go in, I have to deal with people. Like, you get stuck in the minutia of the day. So how can you, repassion yourself to be like it was in that first few years where you're like, yeah, let's go. We're going to conquer the world. We're going to take over. And then some people come to that thing where, like we said, a folding where you're just like, look, this is just, I thought I would be a millionaire by now and I'm just scraping by. And sometimes it's just coming to terms with yourself of, this just isn't right for me. And what I found was hard to say to people, because people in my family, I don't come from an entrepreneurial family. So most of them were government workers or in the military. So when I went to them and said, look, I'm thinking of giving up the franchise, it was a bread franchise. The question was, why would you do that? It's successful. It's making you money. Why on earth would you give it up? And I said, well, I'm not happy in it anymore. Like, I never get to see my husband. He's gone all of the time because there was driving and everything. And I said, so it just doesn't make sense with the other businesses. And now is, it's a good time. There's lots of people out there looking. It's sort of like a home, right? Like, you don't sell your home when the market is crap. But there was a lot of like, well, you can't do that. Like, that's so irresponsible. And so I think people face that a lot, where people don't understand, why would you give something up when it's successful?
Well, that's I think, yeah, it's a big challenge for people to get over. Why would you give? I guess it depends on how you value success as well, right? Are you just valuing money? If money is your metric, maybe you need to hang on to the business. But if money isn't the only thing you value in life, like having quality time with your family, and that's more important than just money, then maybe there is a good reason to give it up.
And that's the biggest thing I talk with my clients about, because we get so focused on the money aspect of it. And a lot of them, if they're in that situation where they're sort of mid-ground, it's not doing as good as they thought, but it's not super bad, then it comes to sitting down and really asking yourself the questions, what am I happy about in this? But more so, what do I not like about this? What do I not like about my day-to-day tasks? And actually get them to make a list. And then we go through that. Are these things that you're willing to change or willing to accept? Is this something that you can maybe hire somebody else to do, to sort of get it off of your plate? If the answer to most of those are no, or the person is just like, oh, I don't know if I really want to fix that, or I'm not really sure, then maybe it's time to just kind of, let it go. Because I've never seen anybody, and there will be exceptions to the rule, but there are very few people that I have seen that are miserable and hate what they do and make a ton of money. Those two things just don't go together. Or if you get the odd person who is a miserable person but is making a lot of money, they're still unhappy. So to me, really finding the joy and being passionate about what you do is so key to being an entrepreneur. And the other thing is that I'm trying to do in my life, one of my main goals is to lose that stigmatism around, once you start a business, you have to keep it for life. Because that's something that's almost ingrained in people. Like, you're not allowed to move on. And you are. It's no different than a relationship. If that, relationship with you and your business isn't serving you anymore, it's okay to move on. It's okay to let it go. Let someone else love it and nurture it and, raise it. Let it go. And that's okay. But a lot of people feel, no, like you had said, I've put 5 years into this. I've put my blood, my sweat, and my tears. I've spent time away from my family. How can I walk away from this now? And it's really just letting your ego go. And the other thing that I usually encounter is, well, what will people do if I close my business? And this is always a really hard one. And it works well for me because I have the personality that I don't mind saying stuff as it is. That kind of personality. But it really comes down to, nobody at the end of the day really cares. And that's a hard thing for a lot of people to come to. And it was a really hard thing for me to realize. I had a retail craft store. I was the only craft store in town besides like the big Walmart that was here. It was just me. So I was like, well, what will people do if I disappear? And I had to take an ego hit and realize that there will be people who are upset because of course I had my loyal customers who were sad to see me go, but at the end of the day, this is the way the world works. Another business will open, another opportunity for somebody, they'll go to another town, like they'll find a way to manage.
Mm.
They'll get by, but again, we all want to think that, I mean, if I disappear, the world shall mourn. The reality is that it's okay for you to move on to something else. And what I found is if if what you're doing, if say you're shifting or you're twisting into a different business, sometimes those customers just come with you. And you still sort of keep that following because you've now almost branded yourself. They know what to expect from you. They know that you're successful, that you'll take care of them. And so sometimes that's not a bad thing because again, they're going to sense your passion, they're going to sense your excitement, and they're going to want to come along that ride with you.
Interesting, and that speaks volumes about the power of building a personal brand, I suppose, which is bigger than the thing that you're actually selling right now, the product itself.
Yeah, and it's true. I find too a lot of people, especially these days, because a lot of stuff is going online, that people, and I've done this. I've been so guilty of this that I start businesses and I create them so big that I can't leave. And I always have to sit down and remind myself that the goal of my business is to get it so big that it doesn't need me anymore, that it can run without me. Because we forget that goal. But what that does is causes you to be stuck in it. You
Mm.
can't leave, you can't take vacations, you end up micromanaging your staff because you just have to have your hands in everything. And so the goal really is in any business is to grow it big so that you can do stuff like franchise or expand or have other owners come in or even just grow. So really don't, it's almost just reminding yourself that the ultimate goal is that this business could run completely by itself, because when you're younger, when I was in my 20s, I didn't think that. Now that I'm in my 40s, I go, there is going to come a point where I'm going to want to kind of retire. Like,
Yeah.
not just sit in a rocking chair and knit, but that I'm going to want the freedom to be able to travel, to be able to do things, to go, I'm not going to work. I'm going to work Friday this week. But if you stick yourself so much in the business and you're focusing on that, you're not giving yourself that opportunity later. Now, that being said, if it's a new business owner who's listening right now, you're not going to get that right away. Like it is just plowing and putting all of your time into, to help it grow. But
I
again,
think
it's
you
just
mentioned
keeping.
something really interesting there, which is about people's mindset when they come into starting a business. And I think one of those things is that there's like it's almost a want to be like a gladiator and to test ourselves by like some trial of fire, that we can do this and we can prove everyone wrong in the Colosseum around us, and
Yes.
that show that we can make it. Which is like that passion's really good in the beginning of building your business. That desire to like, just I'm going to show everyone what I can do and I'm going to make my mark on the world. But I think once you get too consumed by that kind of feeling, then it long term, as your life changes, which is what you've just said, as you go from being maybe this person in their 20s or early 30s to being this family person who's got other values and other interests, and maybe not even a family person, but a person who values other things outside of work, then you suddenly go, actually, I really want to be able to take a day off. I don't always want to have to be involved in everything. And this is one of the traps now with many businesses, where you like end up building the business around you. And I look at some huge companies online now, who are built around personal brands, like Neil Patel, for example, big marketing brand person, and the business is built around him. But even he says that he wishes he hadn't built the business around him, because he's like trapping himself uh, inside the business. What do you think are some steps that people can take to try and start stepping back from that point where they've become the center pole, like in the big top inside of their business? What can do to slowly remove themselves from that situation?
I think the first thing is don't name it after you. We've
Okay.
seen it, we've seen stuff time and time again happen. Now this is going to age me quite a bit, but there's a lady called Debbie Travis, who that's what she did. She had Debbie Travis Paints. She did home decor and all that other stuff. If people are familiar with her, look at her story, because what actually happened to her was that she grew, which is exactly what she wanted. She got really big, but then the organization that she was working with kind of phased her out, and she lost her own name because they were like, no, we own the rights to that. And she's like, no, it's my name. Right. So that's one way to do it, because that's the easy way to do it, right? You go, I don't know what to name this thing. I'm just going to name it Tanya Fox because that's easy. No one has it. I don't have to worry about it. So really have it as a separate thing, whatever it is that you're offering. Even if you're the one who's behind the scenes, even if you're like, yeah, but I'm starting out, it's just me. I always start my business as if I already have a team built around me. I have like a support email already set up when I first start my business, even though it's just me. Why wouldn't I just have it coming to my, my own email? Well, you want to set it up so it's easy to pass off. So when I get to a point that I can hire an assistant, I just hand them over that email. It's already created, but I've also already trained my customers that that's their first point of contact. So even just those little things helps you to kind of have that separation piece. And it's also, it's hard to train people to stop always contacting you. If you set your clients up like that, they're always going to do that. And and again, this comes from experience. When I first started an accounting company, I wanted to give better service. That was my sort of niche. That was my thing. So day or night. Well, but then people started calling me day or night. They would text me at 10 o'clock to ask me a question, and I foolishly would answer. And what that caused was that was okay. I set that boundary that it's okay to expect that stuff. Well, when all of a sudden I was like, I'm on holidays, stop texting me at 11 o'clock on a Friday, and then you get pissed off that you didn't get an answer, was my fault, because I had trained them to do that. And it took a long time to retrain them to say, you're not going to get an answer for that. So it's just setting up those little bit of separations and always looking, okay, what do I want 5 or 6 years down the road? What would I like to see this company be at? Do I want to have other employees? Do I want to have a team behind me? And create that separation now. The other thing that does is allows you to sell, because if the company is 100% you, it's really hard to walk away because you can't give your brain away. So are you setting up processes that other people could come in? We don't want to think about it, but there was a time where I got quite sick and I couldn't work, but I had set all of my stuff up and I had kept notes of, this is what I do on a day. This is how I answer people. These are some scripts that I use, so that my assistant could come in and essentially take over my role for a month and do all of the things I needed to do. And it was easy to do that, as opposed to letting everything crumble and then having to come back and, I'm so sorry, I was sick, blah, blah, blah. My clients never knew what was going on. So it's setting up those processes and trying to keep your name out of it.
Yeah, no,
Don't name stuff after you. Have names for all of your stuff, whether it's a service or a product or anything, but especially the services. Name it. Have a catchy name for it. It's going to help you when you're advertising it, when you're promoting it, but it's also going to help it not stick to you as a person. And the other most important thing that does is you're not, when you put your name on something, you claim that item. And so sometimes you'll intertwine your identity with that item, and that is hard to get out of later on.
And I think it's really, like you said, visualizing where you want to go is a really powerful thing to do, and something that we often don't give time to, right? We don't invest time in thinking, oh, actually, what would be the dream state of my business in 5 years' time? And I think that's a really powerful thing to do, because then you can start thinking about how many offices you're going to have, how many team members you're going to have, how many locations you're going to serve, and start thinking about what you need to do that. And yeah, I think that's really powerful advice, thinking about how to
And
visualize
using
things.
those names too. I think like if you want to have an assistant, then like I actually create a name and I have like a sticky note and this is where my assistant's going to sit and this is her name. I don't know, like pick whatever name you want,
Mm.
but this is who she's going to be. And have, because I think that visualization of going, oh, it's going to be great when I'm going to be able to hand her that, really helps. Like I always just, put like a picture. This is what I'd like my assistant to look like, or this was what I'd like my next team member to look like. And just always seeing it makes me go, I want this to be a real person, and helps me keep refueling that passion. Or maybe it's a location you want to really move into. Go out and scout locations. Do walkthroughs of building that are for lease. Take a picture, put it up on your wall. We need to always have that focus of, where are we going to? What are we striving to be? And when we don't do that, we get stuck in the minutia. We go day to day and we're just trying to survive and get through this day on to the next day.
I mean, the
And
first step in achieving it is believing it. And one of the things
yes,
I like to say is it's like Santa Claus, right? You have to tell Santa Claus what you want in order to get it. So you've got to have clarity on what you want from the world to have any hope of getting it. So I think it's really, and I love the idea of mapping out your team hierarchy as well. That's a really powerful thing to do.
Don't miss out on future episodes. Be sure to subscribe to our show and keep notifications on.
I'd like to jump back to something you mentioned before, which is about people are afraid of killing their business or maybe selling it or doing something with it because they think it's they see it as a loss, right?
yes.
But actually, I think not making a decision can be a loss as well. And I think it's a complete myth to think the only risk is doing something different. Like the only risk is selling your business. Well, actually, the biggest risk might be you staying in your business, carrying on working 60, 70 hours a week, and eventually having a serious health crisis because of that. And so I think, we need to look beyond the simple fear and really be able to step back objectively. Is that something you help people do?
Yeah. And like I had said before, it really comes down to sitting down and discovering what is it that you really want? What did you want out of this business? And even go back if you were a person who did like vision boards or journaling or whatever, go back to when you first started that business. Pull out your business plan 5 years, down the road and take a look at it. Did I hit the targets? And then why didn't I? So a lot of stuff can happen. It could be that you were pie-eyed when you first did your business plan, because that's really what it is. I mean, you're guessing at it. But it's really sitting down, and that's what I do. I sit down with you and we really go through and find out why were these targets not hit? Or even the other thing, how did you surpass these targets? So it's really assessing and really getting down to why is this not working for you anymore? And from that point, then we can figure out, is this something that you can change? Is this something that you can find passion in again? And sometimes that answer is a simple no, and that's okay. So let's say the answer is no. Let's say you're just like, you know what? I stayed in this too long, because that's usually what happens. People stay in it too long. I can't, it's like a relationship. Now I can't stand the sound of that person's breathing. They chew loud, they do this, it's irritating. Everything is irritating. That's fine. Okay, it's time to let it go. When you've made that decision, now it's time to let it go. Now you have to decide, how do you want to leave? That's something that people never think about. What do you want your exit to look like? This is a grand exit. Just like you had a grand opening, you need to have a grand closing. So how do you want that to look? Is it going to be a transition leaving? Like you're like, hey, we're closing down this sector, but we're doing this really new exciting thing. Come and follow us. Do you want to do sort of something fun? Are you going in a completely different direction? So as an example, when I closed my retail craft store, I wasn't selling it. I decided that I wanted to just close it. I needed to be done. I made the decision that I didn't want to wait for sales, because we all know selling a business means lots of people coming in, kicking tires. I didn't want that. I didn't want to have to go through that. I just went through it with the franchise. So I thought, I don't owe anything. I'm in a situation where I can just close the store down. I'm going to take all the stock home because I'm a crafter, which worked really well. That COVID happened after, because I was set for all of my stuff. But I sort of thought, how do I want this to go? So I decided that I was going to do a retirement party. And my dog always came to work with me and the customers loved her. So I decided I'm not going to do it for me because I'm not retiring, but I'm going to retire the dog. So that's what I had. I had, retiring signs in the window, and I put it all over social media, and I said, like, come out. Lily, our security guard, is retiring. We're so excited. And then, and this will be our last day. And for me, that made me be able to leave on a high note. I left on a party. Let me tell you, there was so many people that came out for that dog. I don't think if I would have just said, store closing, that I would have gotten as many people. But it was a fun way for me to leave the business. And my tagline is have fun, because if you're not having fun, why are you doing it? So this was a way also for me to say goodbye. So really decide, how do you want to say goodbye to this business? Do you want to sell it to someone else? Do you have that emotional attachment where you're like, I cannot watch someone else own this business and, run it into the ground? Because that's what we think. We never think someone's going to take it and be really good at it. Or are you okay with watching someone else take your business and be really successful at it? You have to be honest with yourself with that. And so how do you want to exit? And make that a plan, because that's important. And do you need a mourning period? Some people do. Some people need to sit there and have a day where they feel horrible about it. I had one client who actually had a funeral for her business. She wanted to say goodbye. That was very important in her family. So I said, well, do it. Who says that you can't? Do whatever you need to do to say goodbye, because it's important for you to have that. It's important for you to say goodbye to that chapter of your life, to thank it for what it's given you, and then to be able to move on. Because if you don't, you're always going to be stuck in, like you said, that feeling of, I failed, I should have been good at this. And then it's going to take you even longer to pick yourself back up again. And closing a business is not a failure. People close businesses all the time. Even if you go bankrupt and you close it, learn a lesson from it, and then it's not a failure. You've learned something, it's a success, because you learned from that mistake and you won't do that again.
Well, isn't it worse also if you're a business owner who's actually worse off than being an employee of another company as well? I think that's probably a trap that people get themselves stuck in, where they think, oh, I've said I'm going to go out on my own and make it, and things aren't quite working, and it's quite painful and sticky. And they could, in fact, just, close everything down and start, become an employee again. And they might be financially better off and have a lot less stress, and they might have a more regular day, like 9 to 5. But they're stuck, psychologically, they feel like they've got to continue with the business, which is a shame.
I think that that's true. And I think that what happens a lot is that we put that guilt on ourselves. We feel guilty about the fact that we didn't make it, and what are people going to think? But the truth is that the people that truly matter are going to sit there and support you, and the other people, they're not really going to notice. I mean, you might get the few weird people that are like, oh my God, look at Tanya, like she's a greeter at Walmart. Meanwhile, I'm like, woohoo. Like, I don't have to do anything. Like, sometimes I have that dream. Sometimes I think it would be really nice to have a 9 to 5 job where I just go in, do my job, like clock in, clock out, don't care. Like, don't have to worry if there's pens or Post-it notes or nothing. Like, I just go in and hello, hi, welcome.
That's it. Everything's left at the door, right?
Right. So be okay with your decision and ignore those people who are whispering behind you, because everyone else is ignoring them too. You have to do, at the end of the day, what is right for you. And if what is right for you is to go back and just get a job, then do that and be proud of that decision, because make it a decision, not something that you had no other choice to do. I would rather say I chose to go and get a job than I had to, because yeah, the business was bankrupt and we owe a lot of money.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's a big thing, taking ownership and being decisive and saying, this is my life and I'll decide what I want to do that's right for me. Because ultimately, if you're trying to live your life for other people and other people's expectations, you can't meet them. Let's say my brother always thought, oh, I can never have my own business and make it a success. Well, I could set up my own business. I could open 10 stores in 10 different cities. It could be a business that's worth 100 million. He still might think I'm a loser. There's nothing I can actually do to personally control what someone else thinks or feels about me. So the best thing us as individuals can do is actually serve ourselves and live our lives on our own terms for what we actually want, and not worry too much about other people.
The other hard thing that happens is people do the comparison game a lot. We were talking about, when people are trying to find, whether this is something that they want to do, engaging their successes. We have this wonderful thing in social media, but we also have this picturesque thing where we start comparing ourselves to other businesses. And so I tell my clients a lot, do you know what their bank account looks like? And they were like, well, no, why would I? Then why are you comparing yourself to them? That's unfair. Unless you can get their complete financial status and look truly at what their business is doing, stop comparing yourself to them. Because we have all seen it before where we see, huge stores, huge corporations come in and all of a sudden, they take over the country and they open all of these stores and they open all of these branches, and then 6 months later they close, right? Because they didn't make it work. So really, we have to stop comparing what we think other people are doing or how successful we think other people are. Because again, unless you're seeing behind the curtain, you have no idea what they're going through. So don't worry about that.
And building on that, I think that's a great idea of like really knowing, if you're going to compare, like you've got to know what other people's financial status is, but also beyond that, like how happy are they really in their life? How much time do they have to spend with their kids? How much time do they just have to sit down and read a book? There's a lot to actually compare beyond the falseness or the face of Instagram. Let's say you might see a business that looks awesome on Instagram, like everyone's having loads of fun, parties and good time, but it's all just a load of baloney. It's just not true.
Well, and it's 5 minutes, right? Like, I mean, you have a max 5 minutes picture into their world. So maybe they got everything all organized for that picture, and as soon as the picture gets taken, I mean, it's complete and utter chaos afterwards. So I think it's really sitting down and being honest about what you want. And I'm not talking about even, it's great to go, I want to have millions of dollars. I only want to work 4 days a week. That's a popular one right now, right? I only want to work 4 days a week. My question is, what are you planning on doing with those other 3 days? What exactly are you going to do? Are you going to just sit on your couch and do nothing? You really have to decide, because it's great to think that. But if, you go, I'm only going to work 4 days, and then you crap away those other 3 days, well, what was the point of that? So it's really getting clear with, this is what I want. And then ask yourself, why do I want that? What do I think that is going to gain? What is more money going to do for me? What is more time going to do for me? How am I going to spend that extra time that I've gained? And it's okay if you're a workaholic and you enjoy that and that works in your life and with the people that surround you, then stop thinking that you have to, cut down your hours. I tried that. I tried going to the 4-day work week, and I did the plan, and I read the book, and I took the course and all of that other stuff. And I realized I hated it, because on the other days, all I was doing was thinking about work. And I realized I don't want to do the 4 days. I really like my Monday to Friday routine. So I went back. So yes, try those things, but if they don't work, that's fine. Go back to what works for you, what makes sense to you, and don't worry about what anybody else is thinking. And that includes closing your business. If it's right for you, it's right for you. It doesn't matter what everybody else thinks. They don't have to live it, and if somebody's like, I can't believe you're closing your business, then turn to them and say, it's for sale. Would you like to buy it? Because I guarantee their answer is usually going to be like, oh, no. And I used to do that to my customers too. I can't believe you're closing. Why would you do that? Well, you buy it. and you can run it. I'll get you the paperwork right now, right? And they're like, oh, well, no, no, no. And I'm like, okay, well, see, now you understand.
I love that turning of the tables. I think there's a lot to be said for like re-examining the business model that we all have in terms of what is designed to generate in terms of return on investment for us. Because I think the big myth that's, big in capitalist society is that a business generates money, right? That's the thing that it generates. And I don't think that's true at all. That business owners just want to generate money. We want to do something more than have money. Money is, of course, useful, pays, your mortgage, your rent, food, your kids' university bills, and so on. But I think we want to do stuff with that money. Maybe it's get a yacht, sail around the world. Maybe it's being able to like just do loads of hobbies, or maybe go on holiday 5 times a year. But I think we all want to do something, do something that's different to money. But we start all of our businesses just thinking, oh, it'd be great if I turn over £5 million a year, or something like this. We don't actually think beyond that. We don't go deeper and look at the true wealth that we actually want to accumulate and own. And I think if people step back and actually go, actually, what is it that I actually want from my business? Is it that I want to only work 10 hours a week and not 40 hours like my old job for my old boss? Or is it like you say, oh no, I want to work five days a week and own like 3 different businesses? I think we need to be a lot more honest with ourselves, because I think if we can be more honest about what we want, then it's obviously got a bigger chance of getting to what we want, right? That's the first step.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that I always do is when I pick a goal, I sit down and go, okay, that's great that that I want that. It's, but am I willing to do the work? So a lot of people go, oh, I want millions of dollars. That's great. But are you willing to put the time in? Because you don't just get it. The only time you get it is if you win the lottery. So how much work does it take to get that skill that you want? And are you willing to do that? Like people go, oh, I think it would be great if I could like fix my own car. I'd save so much money. That's great. Are you ready to put the 2 to 3 years in? Are you ready to go an internship, with a mechanic and learn how to do that? No. Okay. Well, then maybe you don't really want that goal. And I think like what you were saying too about, I think ROI is such, return on investment is such a big conversation that people have. And, you hear it so much. And I think we need to get rid of ROI and start getting ROH, return on happiness. So is what we're doing bringing us joy? Because at the end of the day, you're not going to sit there, when all is said and done and you're in your last moments and go, I wish I had more money. You're going to say, I wish I had more time. I wish I had more laughs. So are you creating a return of happiness for what you're doing? And if not, then shift, then pivot. Because at the end of the day, that's what you're going to remember.
Head to interstellar.show and find all the resources mentioned in today's episode. Plus, discover powerful training which will help you grow, work, and live smarter. Visit interstellar.show today and begin your adventure.
So another good thing to do is to think about how other people might think about you as a person. That's a good exercise as well. How would you like your kids to describe you? As, an ever-present parent, or someone who is just a ghost and never actually there for them? These are thoughts that are worth having, because you don't want to spend 20 years locked inside your business and realize you've arrived at a point where people around you think these kind of things about you, and you never took the time to like address those issues, which I think are big, important issues to address.
And it's, we're in a society where comparison is a huge thing and it's hard. And I still struggle with it, right? I still think, gosh, I work too much. I'm not around I'm not spending enough time with my son. But I sit and have those conversations with people. I sit and say to him, do you want more time with me? Like, do you feel you're not having enough time with me? Because of course I've put all this guilt on me. Like, I'm not spending enough time with him. He's not getting quality time. We're not like playing games and going snowshoeing and all of this other stuff I see all of these other people doing. And he's like, Mom, I'm 14. I would really rather if I just never have to see you. And I'm like, ouch. Right. But in the meantime, here I was thinking I was like taking his childhood away from him but I never asked him the question. And I think back to, my own childhood. And, I had a conversation just last week with my mom. And she was saying, gosh, I'm so glad that you never had to struggle like I did in raising your family. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she was like, well, I mean, like we lived like paycheck to paycheck and I struggled sometimes. And sometimes we didn't have enough food. And I was like, what? Like it was such a weird thing, but it was so funny how we lived exactly the same experience. But to me, I had a wonderful childhood. Like, oh, sometimes we would have pancakes for supper. That was like my favorite day. And my mom was like, I didn't have enough money to like buy meat. So to her experience was like she was so poor she had to feed her kid pancakes. Meanwhile, we're like, woohoo, this is the best thing in the world, right? And I do that with my son now. Hey, it's pancake day, like it's breakfast for supper. So sometimes I think that, we just don't ask the question. So I think it's important too to say, would you like to spend some more time with me? Do you feel like you're not getting enough with me? And then take some time to be okay with the answer, because sometimes the answer is, no, I'm good.
Yeah, it's not quite what you imagined.
You want everybody to go, yes, oh my God, I would love some more time with you. And sometimes like when it comes to like a spouse, it's understanding like, is that time going to be good that we spend together? Because to give a personal example, when we sold the franchise business, my husband decided to take some time off. I did not. So to him, he was like, hey, do you want to have like 3-hour coffees? And I was like, you need to find a job because this is not working anymore. Right. But to him, we never had that conversation of what do we want our time to look like? So it's really, asking those questions and asking them of yourself. Do you want more time with yourself? And being honest with the answers, because sometimes we, I say do a little bit of a cleanse. If at all possible, take 4 days away from social media where you don't even look at it. There's lots of automation you can do, so you'll still be relevant, but take 4 days away and then ask yourself these questions.
That's really easy for me to do because I'm terrible at social media. I'm hardly ever on it. So I'm already winning at that one.
Yeah. So it just helps to sort of clear the minutia of what everybody else is doing. Don't worry about what everyone else is doing because they're not worrying what you're doing.
Yeah. Okay. Totally.
And be okay with, with whatever answers come your way. Take a breath with them, really let them sit with you, and then make the decision that is best for you. Because at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
Yeah. So what we're kind of just to recap on that last point. When it comes to thinking about the future of your business, it's good to think about how your life is impacting other people around you, whether they want more time with you or not. It's just good to be conscious about that stuff because obviously, you're important to them, they're important to you. You want to make sure everything's working for everyone. And you don't want to get to that point where in 10 years' time, you've been absent without leave, as I like to say, and then you turn around and go, oh, where's everyone gone? Why weren't they all just waiting around for me to turn back up again in my own life? One final thing I just want to talk about, and it's about something you mentioned already, and it's to do with, everyone has an exit strategy at some point from their business, and I think whether you like it or not, that always happens, right? Whether you die, whether you're forced to medically retire or your business goes bankrupt or whatever, at some point you're going to exit your business. And I think it's really good to think about what that exit will be, what state you're going to leave it in and on what terms you want to leave. Is there some final advice that you can give people checking out the show today of how they can think about having a better exit strategy from their business?
I think it's important to have a few. So like you said, there's various reasons why you leave, whether it's for medical reasons or you're just sick of it. I mean, you can't really go, I'm tired of people and I don't want to do this anymore.
I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore.
So it's really just having a few different versions of what you ideally would like that to look like. And of course, there's a lot of times where people go, well, I don't want to think about that. I know you don't want to think about that. We don't want to think about our death either, but we all write wills. So it's almost like writing a will for your business. What do you want to happen to this when you leave? And I don't necessarily mean by death. I just mean like, when you want to go. Is this something that you want to sell? Because the thing is that when you have a clear idea of a few different ways that you would like to exit the business, your path becomes a little bit clearer. So, for example, if you decide that you want to leave your business and this is like a family legacy that you want to start, then are you gearing that? Is that working? Because you might have children that are small and you say, I want to leave my business to them so that they can carry on the name, that they'll, have the success that I've had. And your kid's like, I don't want this business at all. Like, don't give this to me.
Yeah, I
So
don't want to run a dry cleaning franchise. I
yeah,
don't do
what
that.
makes you think I don't want this? God, I'm moving the second I turn 18, like I'm out, So I think it's, and really constantly re-looking at that exit strategy. And I'm not talking about every day, but if something big changes in your business, go back and look. Is this still kind of what I'm thinking about? Does this need to change? Did I find out that my kids don't want this business? Now now what do I want to do with it? So those decisions are something, this isn't this is a living document. So it's not going to be something that's like, that's it. I've made this plan. This is the way it's going to end. When it goes down, this is the way it's going down. Life doesn't happen that way. But really making those just, those conscious efforts of constantly changing that and looking at that and going, am I heading in this direction? Is the way I leave franchising and growing it really big? Is the way I leave passing it down? Is the way I leave just shutting the doors and walking away, like shutting the lights off at 5 and that's it. That's the last day. Is it a big party? Is it, it has to fit with your personality, but really sit down and think about that. Today, if I had to leave my business, what would I want that to be? If I had to go, how would I do it? And then say 5 or 10 years, I want to leave my business. And it's going to change as your age changes. It just does. My exit strategy is not the same as when I was 20. When I was
Sure.
20, I would just be like, man, let's move on to the next thing. I'm young.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, I got a family, I got kids. I got to think a little bit harder about this.
Yeah.
So, and it's good to, I think it's good to, you can build it up. You could be like, oh, no, we're going to have a huge party and there'll be a parade and that fine. If that's how you want to leave, great. Let's
Awesome.
work towards that goal.
Brilliant. What wonderful advice. Thank you, Tanya. That's amazing. And just to we haven't really talked too much about what you offer in terms of your service. So maybe we should just touch on that quickly so people know why they should get in touch with you.
Yeah. So what I usually do is for all of your listeners, I'm going to offer a free 30-minute call with me so that we can sit down and just talk about like where they're at with their business right now and what I, and sort of give them an idea of some things that they need to think about. So there's no other obligation to that. I'll just be having a conversation and giving them my 2 cents. And then beyond that, I offer coaching where I actually come in and do full assessments on the businesses. So I can sit down with them, go through their financials. I have 23 years experience in the financial aspect of businesses. So we really sit down, do a deep dive. Where is your business? Where do you want to see it go? Ways that you can improve, or how do you make that exit strategy? So I also have that as well. If people are like, nope, I know I want out, then I can sit and help them plan that exit strategy that we were talking about. That how do they want that to look? And then how do we implement to make that happen?
Fantastic. Where can people find can make that first meeting with you? Where can people find that?
So they just can head over to my website at foxtalksbusiness.ca. I'm going to put a little link there with the episode, and then they can book the appointment in with me and also find other information about what they're doing. And everywhere, all my social media and everything is on there. So at any time, people can always just send me an email and let me know what they're thinking and see if we can work together. I love conversations. That's my passion.
Brilliant. I can tell you've certainly got a lot to say and been such an awesome guest on today's show. So thanks so much for all your amazing insights. It's been a great episode and look forward to talking with you again soon.
Oh, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you, Andrew.
That was an amazing interview with Tanya from Fox Talks Business. I really enjoyed talking with Tanya. She's got a wealth of experience when it comes to exiting a business and helping business owners think about their strategy and whether they should stick, twist, or flop. With their business, right? Should they keep going? Should they invest more, or is it time to step away? It was a brilliant interview. And I definitely recommend checking out Tanya and possibly booking a meeting with her if you want to do that. One of the things I would say is to you that I think you should live your life for you and not for other people. Of course, you've got other people around you that you care about, your friends, family, loved ones, and they need to be considered. But when it comes to whether you keep going with your business or whether you fold it and do something else, really, that decision can only come down to you. And whether you decide to keep going with the business or close it, you can't be guaranteed whatever decision you make is going to positively or negatively affect someone's opinion of you. You can't control their opinion. So ultimately, the one thing you can control is your own life, and live for your own expectations and live for what you want your life to be. So my big piece of advice for you at the end of today's episode is make these big decisions about your business for you, not for for other people's expectations and what you hope they'll think of you. Do it for you. So thanks for tuning into another episode of the Interstellar Business Show. Please subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Interstellar Business Show. This podcast was sponsored by the Interstellar Report. Ready to discover the powerful forces that influence the success of leaders like you? Head to interstellar.report and grab this brilliant resource. A personalized report which reveals your strengths and weaknesses in 6 key areas. Visit interstellar.report and discover the insights, roadblocks, and opportunities you've been missing. Plus, get free personalized training that will help you grow, work, and live smarter. Go to interstellar.report today and start your adventure.